Welcome each one of you to session 3 of day 3 of INDCON 2020-2021. In INDCON, we take up different themes every year. And the theme for this year is creating next frontier in research and development ecosystem enabling Atmanirbhar Bharat. Before formally introducing INDCON and IMC, I shall request the technical team to relay the film on INDCON. Over to my technical team.
Becoming a global leader is a noble dream. What is our strength as India? It is knowledge. The strength of a nation in the digital age we find ourselves in is governed solely by its research and development index. The speed by which technology is accelerating has been unmatched since the dawn of humanity. India boasts of the largest manpower pool under the age of 30 in the world. Though we have potentially a gold mine of researchers with us, we barely produce any research. We have to import technology from nations like China. Our universities and our industry do not seem to share the deep connection that they do in countries like the US or China. That is why the IMC's Knowledge Committee, in association with MIT World Peace University, are hosting INDCON, a revolutionary online conference between industry and academia. The way for India to become a global leader lies in its repository of knowledge. INDCON is the way to do so.
Thank you so much. INDCON is organized by IMC under the leadership of Shri Rajiv Podar and Knowledge Committee Chairman Shri Rahul V. Karat. The Center for Industry Academia Partnerships at MIT World Peace University has taken up the responsibility of organizing INDCON across 11 cities of India, which shall run for the next 9 months and will include 150 industry leaders as well as representatives from the government, academia, under the elite leadership of the CEO, Mr. Praveen Patil, along with Dr. Prasad Khandekar, the chairman of the organizing committee. The Delhi NCR region event was spread over the next 3 days, starting from 26 November till today, that is 28 November, during which 9 sessions were conducted with the active participation from all stakeholders, the industry, academia, and research and development experts. It is my honor to introduce before you the Indian Merchants Chamber. It was established in 1907 in Mumbai, and it represents the interest of Indian trade, commerce, and industry. The IMC has played a significant role in consolidating the Indian business interest and making the Indian economy self-reliant. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce the Center for Industry Academia Partnership briefly. The Center for Industry Academia Partnership was started with the intention to build collaborations with industry and academia to encourage the maximum potential and impact outcomes. The step taken is in the direction to develop innovative solutions through process-driven approach. Mr. Praveen Patil, the CEO of the Center for Industry Academia Partnership, has been a pioneer in developing it and taking this initiative ahead in bringing a significant change within the university. After a deliberate discussion for the past 2 days and 2 sessions of the 3rd day, we come to session 3 of day 3. The theme of this session is Best Practices in Research and Development, India and other top 10 countries in research and development. Before formally introducing the panel speakers and the moderator, I shall request my technical team to play the session video. Over to my technical team.
Fundamentally, companies spend on R&D to stay ahead of the curve. While sales and operations keep companies afloat, R&D is among the tools that companies must leverage to evolve and prepare for the future. Important objective of the decision process is to build organizational commitments step by step so that the decision leads naturally to effective action. R&D management should understand all potential drivers of change and incorporate their impact in decisions. For this reason, the decision process must be fair and open, with ample opportunity for participation of all relevant individuals and functions.
Thank you so much. Today we have the privilege to have amongst us Dr. Bhumika Gupta, Professor and Program Director, Department of Management, Marketing and Strategy, based at France, Mr. Kuldeep Varma, Consultant, Carbon and Sulfur Technologies, and Dr. Mallika Mishra, Head of Analytical R&D, Hygiene, Home and Health at Reckitt and Benkiza, India. The moderator of this session is Dr. Prasad Khandekar, the Dean of Faculty of Engineering and Technology. Before formally handing over the session to Sir, I have a small request for the participants to type all your questions in the chat box provided, and all your questions shall be answered towards the end of the session. With that, I formally hand over the session to the moderator, Dr. Prasad Khandekar. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Basu, for that nice introduction. With the permission of all the panel members, I'll start the session. Good afternoon to one and all. Last 2 days and even the first leg of INDCON, we have been discussing and deliberating on how to build research culture in India, where are the missing dots, where are the missing connects, why India is still lagging in terms of percentage of GDP spent on R&D, or in terms of number of patents filed, in terms of citations, where are the gaps, and how MIT World Peace University and IMC can work with government and industry to connect these dots. So with this, today we are in the session where we have three eminent researchers, I would say, who have traveled across the globe and done research. They are known in their own fields. We have with us Dr. Bhumika Gupta. She is joining from France. We have Mr. Kuldeep Varma, who has traveled in Singapore, Australia on various chemical research projects. And we are also with us Dr. Mallika Mishra, Head of Analytical R&D, Hygiene, Home and Health at Reckitt Benkiza. So let me take this opportunity to introduce all our panel members. Let me start with Dr. Bhumika Gupta. Bhumika Gupta is a Doctor of Philosophy and holds a PhD degree in the area of Human Resource Management from the University of Pau, France. She holds a position as Associate Professor in the area of Human Resource Management and post as Program Director of Master of Science in International Management. She works in the Department of Management, Marketing and Strategy at Institute IMT Ivry Campus, France. Her research explores a comparison of motivation levels in management practice between the traditional and virtual project teams, corporate culture, psychological contracts at workplace. Professor Gupta wrote several articles published in peer-reviewed, academically highly ranked journals concerned with HRM, organization behavior, etc. She has over 50 research articles and research conference in A, B, and C ranked journals. The other side of Professor Gupta, which I am really impressed, she has been invited at Copenhagen Business School, Denmark, as a visiting professor for 6 months in 2020, at Stanford University, USA, as visiting professor in the year 2021 for 6 months. She serves as president of International Women Association in India. She has received several awards for her contribution to the society, especially for serving the women and underprivileged children of all the societies. Her undying love for children continues to grow, and her passion to educate children is immortal. So there are different aspects. Being a thorough researcher, academician, she also contributes to the society. Welcome, Professor Gupta, for this discussion. The second panel member for today's discussion is Mr. Kuldeep Varma. Kuldeep is a chartered chemical engineer registered in India, United Kingdom, and Australia. He's a first-class honors chemical engineering from NUS Singapore. Since then, he has worked globally in Singapore, USA, India, Europe, Australia as a process engineer. Uh, 10 years of developing research projects, underground coal gasification, regenerative caustic scrubbers, CO2 recovery, and so on and so forth. He is recently shifted to Pune. We are really privileged to have Kuldeep with us today. During this discussion, we will definitely have interaction on your different research projects and how to inculcate this research culture in India. Thank you, Kuldeep, for accepting our invitation. Our third panel member, our third panel member is Dr. Mallika Mishra. She has 19 plus years of experience in analytical research and quality assurance. She is a resourceful professional skilled in designing, developing, and executing quality assurance and control processes, test strategies, test plans, skilled in featuring design documents, as well as application standards. Adept in selecting the testing methodologies with focus on latest automation technologies. She is accountable for quality assurance of other non-functional areas such as performance, training, installations, upgrade, etc. If I have to run through her biodata, it will take at least 20 minutes. But we are really proud and privileged to have you, Dr. Mallika, for today's discussion. So with this brief introduction of all the panel members, I want to start with your opening remarks, maybe for 5 minutes each. What do you think should be the best practices India should adopt from different countries, which you have seen in your career? So with this, I will request Professor Bhumika Gupta to share her thoughts and opening remarks on the topic of today's discussion. Professor Gupta. Professor Gupta, are you there? Can you hear me? I think there is a technical glitch at her side. I'll come to Professor Gupta maybe after first round of discussion. Kuldeep, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. First of all, let me thank IMC and MIT World Peace University for giving me this opportunity to be part of this discussion. It's indeed an exciting discussion so far, and I'm very happy to be here. With respect to best practices in research, I would like to summarize what I have to say in 4 points. The first one being how you look at research. I think having worked around the world, the best practice in the way to look at research is that it's an investment into your future. A lot of people don't look at it that way, and that creates some tension with the research community. But if you think of it as an investment in your future, then it's a proper way of looking at it. Plus the way you look at failures. I mean, most of the important technologies that are there in the world today have some research behind it. I mean, Mr. Wright and brothers did some research on aeroplanes, and you have an aeroplane today in the world. Research is actually an important part, and failure is part of research. The story goes that Mr. Edison failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. So failure is part of research, and that's the way it should be accepted in research. Second point that I want to bring forward is that the people doing research. Research is difficult. It's not an easy part to come up with new solutions. So typically, best and brightest of your academic performers typically get into research, and that would be a best practice about people involved in research. Third point I want to bring forward is the culture of starting a research project. Typically, industry is very busy doing their day-to-day work. They don't have time to work on research projects. So if the industry formalizes their strategic areas where they want some research to be done, and then hand over to the research community, which includes industrial researchers, academicians, and they work together to solve a problem, then that's a good culture in which research can survive. And that's my third point about the right culture of starting a research project. And finally, the fourth point being tools and facilities. Research requires good tools. Computers are very important part of research these days. In process industry, before you prototype a process, you can simulate it on a computer, make a mass and heat balance. You can 3D design the equipment on computer before you actually fabricate it. So the tools and facilities required. So computers and all the research journals to be available to know what is the state of the art. So these facilities are required. So these are my 4 points to summarize best practices in research. And with that, I'll end my opening remark. Over to you.
Thank you, Kuldeep, for that. I think you rightly mentioned that it's basically culture and the tools that are required to start the research, and these are the best practices. Let me go to Dr. Mallika now and ask her, because the topic is best practices in R&D, India and other top countries in R&D. So how do you see, where do we stand as India in R&D, and what you have seen in abroad, what we can take from them?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Prasad. Thank you very much. And before giving my remarks, I would like to thank all the organizers and thank you for inviting me in this session. So basically, I'll take one line to introduce myself. Again, I had basically worked in pharmaceutical industries like Ranbaxy Research Laboratories, Dabur Pharma, and Fresenius Kabi, and a startup company. So we were working on various drugs on topical, parenteral, solid dosage, and currently I'm in FMCG sector. So in my point of view, the main thing which R&D should implement or not, the academician should implement is quality by design. Quality is the most important parameter while developing a product. We cannot test quality after developing the product. It should be inbuilt in various stages of the product development. Like drug substance, when we are procuring API, then from drug substance to intermediates, all the raw material, and the final drug product. So if we will take care of quality from the starting, which nowadays is very popular in the industry, which QBD. So at the later stage, we will yield a quality results. And in R&D, basically, what we want return on the investment. If we are, if we are investing so much during the development of the drug, at the last, we want the drug should be stable at accelerated and real condition. At last, the drug should be safe. At last, the drug should be effective. So ultimately, there should be, if there is involvement of 5 to 7 year research, so ultimately there should be a drug in our hand, which we can launch and which we can export and we can earn revenue from them. So in my view, QBD is the most important thing which we have to inculcate in our R&D best practices. Thank you, Dr. Prasad.
Dr. Prasad, I don't know if I'm still audible or not.
Professor Gupta, you are perfectly audible, but we can't hear you.
I don't know, something is terribly wrong on my side. I'm so sorry, my sincere apologies. I could hear you when you were saying and announcing my name, and I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. I don't know for what reasons.
Welcome, Professor Gupta. Nice to have you in the virtual platform.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you, the other two panelists, with such wonderful remarks that you have mentioned. For me, I will start with being an academician. I will start from that perspective, and then perhaps we'll go into a little more technical aspect of it. So basically, what I want to start with is that the role of research in academic institution, if it's significant, and why, basically, and how is it related to the R&D and the whole culture of corporate, how is it important? So what I want to say here is the role of research in academic institution is significant for its sustainability and development, and it is imperative to have knowledge-driven growth based on innovation. Well, the quest for knowledge is the basic principle behind research. For us, the quality of research work directly translate to the quality of teaching and learning in the classroom, and thereby benefiting the students, the society, and the country. The promotion of research in a huge and diverse country like in India will happen. The nation evolve as a knowledge reservoir in the international arena. However, we see in our system, in education system, of course, there are several constraints and challenges that we see in terms of the quality of research, which is one of the barriers that we see. Barring few of the institutions, the prestigious institution which perhaps display a dismissal picture in terms of quality and quantity of research, not many institutes have mandatory research goals for if we have to take into consideration the faculty and if you have to see the adequate system or facilities of infrastructure of the quality of research and so on and so forth, and also the lack of funds. I think there are some gaps perhaps there which is needed to be fixed. Of course, however, it is well accepted that academic research has contributed enormously to find solution to many problems faced by our society and industry. There have been multiple instances when industry have turned to academics for finding solution to vital issues. And I'm sure if we see many of the universities in the United States and Silicon Valley, Stanford, etc., is nearby or located for some reason, and the reason is very strong academic industry relationship, basically where the researchers are born, basically. So there have been multiple instances when industry have turned to academics for finding these solutions. The need for sharing knowledge between research institution and industry have been increasingly evident, as we all know. And research provide basic inputs that can be used for planning and policy decision making. And it is needless to say, academic research is an integral part of global development. So this could be my initial remark as an academician, and further perhaps we'll go into the details of what we are saying in the technical perspective. Thank you, Professor Khandekar.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. I think you rightly said that the quality of research, particularly coming from India and Indian academics, is not up to the global standard as yet. But looking at the efforts taken by AICTE, UGC, MHRD, and the present government, the new national education policy which has been framed, it talks about this kind of culture. And I think at least we have realized where the problem is now.
Absolutely.
And the directions are, some steps have been taken. I wanted to know from all the panel members, here I want to understand, because I was looking at the statistical report presented by DST to Government of India in March 2020. And I realized that the research funding coming to higher education from government was more than coming from the industry. And if you look at US, the funding from the government for research in higher education is hardly 10%, whereas in India it is more than 52%. So, and China has a different model. Now, considering the present situation, plus or minus strengths or weaknesses of Indian ecosystem as of now, which model is more suitable for Indian context so that we can start building or developing this research culture in India? And when I mean research and development culture, I mean to say that even industry looking at academia partnering with industry, government intervening with policies. So which model, if you have to connect these three dots, we have to adopt or maybe adapt from other countries? So I would like to ask this question to Kuldeep first. You have worked in various research projects in various countries. You must have seen different models. Which model India should adopt?
In terms of which model to adopt, the model which I'm comfortable with is that the industry and government sit together and decide that these are strategically important areas for us. Like, for example, in Australia, there's a lot of mining, there's a lot of coal. And the government sat down and said that, oh, see, anyway, we are mining. What about we try underground coal gasification? Because it's a logical extension to what we are doing, and that can be a good fit for our economy. So after careful analysis and deliberation, I think if we can define which are the strategically important areas for us to do research in, and let me just again say that industry does not have the time to do the research most of the times. So sit together, form strategically important areas, and then give it to the research community. Now, research community also needs to have subject matter experts doing the research. You need people with right qualifications, you need people with right experience before a good research output is generated. And that would be my model to support the research problems developed. And one more thing that I would like to say is that if you have 10 researchers, it's not that you give them 10 different problems. A lot of time people, what people do is that, okay, we have one problem and we get the 10 minds into it, and we actually solve that problem. So, I mean, if you adopt that model, then actually some output is there. Otherwise, you have 10 problems, everybody goes thin, and nobody can actually come up with something good. So that's the kind of model that I advocate, to have useful and fruitful research.
Thank you, Kuldeep. Thank you, Kuldeep. I'll now come to Dr. Mallika. Dr. Mallika, luckily, the investment in pharmaceutical sector in R&D is the highest at 24.3%. And next is the transportation. I'm talking about Indian figures. So industry is investing in pharmacy. But if you look at government investment in R&D, in India, at least our space program has worked very well for us. They have been invested a lot in the space program. Going forward, looking at the Indian scenario, like Kuldeep was talking, Australia has its own strength. Where do you think industry and government should give the priority thrust area, and how do we work? What model do you think? Whether government should fund, give space to academic institute to set up center, and industry should invest in that, or industry should do that? What do you think will be the right way of taking it ahead?
Yeah, basically, I'll agree with Mr. Kuldeep's point, because industry, government, and academician all have to sit together, because how industry think, like there is a product, right? At small scale, if researchers are preparing, and that is very innovative, but whether it is scalable, whether suppose a researcher had made a product which is very innovative, but that is at a scale of 1 gram or 2 gram or 3 gram, which is a lab R&D scale. But when, from industry point of view, when we are scaling it up, when we are preparing 200 kgs and 2000 kgs, when we are scaling, then we are facing certain challenges, because that is not reproducible to a larger scale. And for a product to be in the market, everything should be in a harmonized process, and that should be reproducible when it is in a production house, when it is in a warehouse, when we are doing the packaging studies, when we are doing the stability at various conditions, like every zone has certain climatic conditions. So the industry requirement should be clearly understood by academician, and then there is a product. Once there will be a successful product, then only industry can invest in the academy. And industry is a fast moving sector. Today we are working on one project, and if we are not seeing any results, then we can move to another project, right? Because ultimately industry has to earn revenue. So that academician and industry should understand where is the gap, and then there is an investment. And government should sit with industry and academician both, so that they can understand what industry want, how academicians are working, yeah, and whether we are going to produce a scalable and a product at the end of the day which can be benefit both academician and industry as well. So that is my point.
Thank you so much. I think Professor Gupta was mentioning in our opening remarks that the quality of research in academia, it appears to be a chicken egg problem at this moment, whether government gives us the funding and then the level of academic research increases, I'm talking about two researches here, Professor Gupta. One is the academic research you also mentioned, and one is industry applied research.
Right.
Where do you think should be our focus, or it should be a hybrid approach? How do you think, where is the solution? I mean, there is a lot of discussion, but nobody has a solution for this. What is your take?
From my point of view, I think it has to be a hybrid solution. We cannot just say either we should go only by the academic side or by the industry side. It has to be a collaboration. And I think if you look at the history, it was always been the case. But if we are talking about the Indian context, I think the context until now in academics was, until a few years ago, was a very teaching-oriented institution. Very few on the research-oriented institution. From that perspective. So my take is, I think we, from the government point of view, we should review and restructure the priorities with a special emphasis, among the other things, on the global competitiveness, on the Indian industry, for example. And it has to go very closely with the universities and industry from the government take. And the government should be able to enhance a stage-wise manner the national investment in R&D, which perhaps was fallen sadly in recent years. And we should actually propose a plan to minimize brain drain, maximize brain gain, and network the Indian Brain Bank around the world. So that is what I see. And also there is a need for restructuring and the de-bureaucratize the university and public funded research and development institution. We should give more flexibility, freedom of operation, and financial autonomy. And I think if we are able to do so, I think we are in the progress in the approach to do so. But if it happens in the near future, the way we want it, I see already India is going ahead and will be very far ahead among the many of the top 10 countries that we see recently, including South Korea, Germany, etc., in the trends. So that's what I feel.
Okay, thank you, Professor Gupta. So taking the discussion forward, if we divide this into two parts, one is industry-related research, where the return on investment, which Dr. Mallika and Kuldeep was talking about. Other is research, which is more, long-term, deep research. Maybe it's like space technologies, where you have to have patience to calculate the return on investment, tangible outputs, etc. So let us focus for some time on the industry-led research. Recently, the Skoda has started its research center in Pune, Chakan area, and it's R&D center. But I was surprised that they did not involve, it was not kind of ego-hurting for us, but they did not involve any academia there. Because they do not have, maybe largely industry do not have confidence in academia that they can contribute there. How do we solve this problem? There has to be slow competency building of academia, because 85% is private education in India. And if you see our GDP spend, we are the least in terms of GDP spend. There has been many talks about spending more money on R&D and education, but eventually last 5 years, it is stagnated at 50,000 crore rupees. So do you think government has to intervene in solving this chicken egg problem to build competency in academia first, so that industry can show faith in academia? When I say doing that, I'm talking about private. I'm not talking about Ivy League like IITs and NITs and IIMs. Can government do something to build competency in private educational institutes so that they will become ready to take industry projects? On that, I want to have Kuldeep your take. Is it possible?
If you ask me, the moment the problem is handed over from industry or government to the research community, what does the researcher do? He has to brainstorm. He has to go to the subject. So academia is actually a very important part of research. Lot of researchers that I have met with, they say our subject is clear because we teach the students, and sometimes I get some insights which are, which basically tells me that I've understood the topic. So academia is actually important, and if you ask any researcher, he would say that my strength in research is because I have good subject matter expertise, because I read books, because I read journals, and my subject matter expertise is better and better. So I think it has always been that research and academia are together. Why it is not in India, I have no clue about that. But all the top researchers have a deep connection with academia, so it's never been a problem in my area.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Day before yesterday, we had Mr. Shailesh Srivastava. He's a secretary for heavy industries and PSUs. And he himself said that government is seriously thinking whether they can fund private institutes and industry can invest in terms of manpower and other testing facilities. So government is seriously thinking whether they can give some sort of funding to highly ranked, when I say highly ranked in terms of NIRF, etc. So this he was trying to propose. So from industry perspective, Dr. Mallika, do you think that central government try to fund private institutes in a particular sector, and then industry is involved in some or the other way? So is it possible? And if yes, what could be the industry's role to bring about and develop competency in those private academic institutes?
Yes. Thank you for the question. Actually, in my view, academia is a very important sector. The thing is, because there is a lot of theoretical knowledge and innovation which can come out from the academicians, and a government should and must invest in this sector. And they have to increase the investment in the academic sector. The challenge from academia side, which I see, that there is not very good lab-based facilities which industry have, and the industry in turn want a solution. If there is a problem, they want a solution on the very next day, because industry have timeline target. We have to meet a timeline and we have to launch the product as early as possible. Industry does not have that much time to depend on academia and later doing a brainstorming thing and losing the timeline thing. But definitely theoretical knowledge and which academician can which academia can produce, can give the result to industry is very important. In my opinion, basically in academia, in the syllabus structure, there is a need to change the structure of the education, because whatever the practical things which industry need, that should be involved in the academic structure curriculum, and there should be a state of art facility in academia. And it's a both industry, academia, government has to work together. Then there will be a problem, then there will be a solution to that particular problem, because academicians also want to do a lot of things. But since in lab, suppose if I'll give example from analytical side, if there are no instruments like NMR, GCMS, because these are very costly instruments. So if a researcher is thinking about a solution, where can he go and where can he conclude the data? And if he is sending that samples to some other lab, or he can lose a lot of time. Since industry has everything in ready-made in a state-of-art facility, they can generate all the data within a day or two, and they can reach to a conclusion more quickly as compared to academician. So yes, there is a need. Academicians should understand where is the gap. They have to develop a very good state-of-art facilities. At the time, industry and government should invest, because there is a funding issue as well. So yes, all three have to work together. Then there will be a solution to this problem.
Dr. Mallika, here I would like to disagree with you on one aspect, because academics is basically in India is a charitable thing, and there is no earning, there are no profits as such. And to invest, let's say, in pharmaceutical laboratories, or I'm a chip designer by profession. My research is into chip design, IC, integrated circuit. We have only one fab in Chandigarh that is owned by Government of India. During my entire research, I was struggling to contact France fab, Taiwan fab, but the funding was so high that I could not fabricate my chip. Now, after 10 years, government has fabricated my chip. So this is again, who is going to take the risk? Industry or government? Academia, 85%. We are not profit earning. Our intake is fixed, our fees are fixed, our cash flows are fixed. Definitely the money is not going to come from there to set up labs which you are talking about, right? So here I want to ask Professor Gupta, cannot industry take a risk and have patience to build this facility along with academia rather than only building their own facilities? Somewhere down the line, if they think futuristically, they can actually work with academia. Academia can give them a land, industry can set up a center, they slowly start building. Is it possible, Professor Gupta?
Thanks, Professor Khandekar. Very interesting point, and I totally agree with you on a point that academics or the education business is actually not known as a business, but a kind of a system which is more on the charity. However, it is not the case anymore, in my opinion. It is more on the other track. But you are absolutely right that we need to have such a synergy that, for example, in France, most of the labs, and we have our own incubator on campus at the INDCON, and it is funded by European Commission. And every year we get the funding. So that is what I always say. We have to have a categorized set of faculty members, people who are working in this area, in academics, for example, research-oriented, teaching-oriented, and those who are interested to bring in the research projects by different governments, national or international agencies. So I think if we are able to inculcate such a talent pool within our system, for example, in case of MIT WPU, then I see it is fully possible, and it is not rocket science, and it is not something new to the system which will happen or which can happen. It is absolutely possible. And in fact, an university standalone or a business school standalone or an engineering school standalone may not have all these resources as an institution itself. We always go out and look for fundings to establish such laboratories or incubators and so on and so forth, and that is how it works. Okay, so in my opinion, that is how it should happen. We should not look at the resource prop, like we say in French. We should not look at the resource from our own pocket, but rather we should hand it outside with the industries, with the government, other agencies, research agencies, and so on and so forth. And that is the key to success in such a way. So, so if I say the industry, what on the positive note of how we should progress, maybe we should look at the technology as an instrument of growth rather than just a market as an instrument of growth. And we should use research and academic institution as idea generators and well as the window of knowledge on the rest of the world. And we should create a massive demand pull on the Indian academia and R&D laboratories and challenge them with the task of the target. And I think that is one of the way we should look ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Gupta. I think India has realized that if it has to become a 5 trillion economy in near future, it has to work on research and innovation. It has to have policy to inculcate that culture, because manufacturing we have lost to China and other Asian countries, and maybe South America, for that matter. So it has now realized that research and innovation is the key to become a developed country. Having said that, two figures that really bother us is the number of researchers per million in India. We are at 175 per million, whereas a small country like Switzerland, it is 400, Japan is at around 250. So do you think that encouraging research, maybe at academia level, or because whenever we talk about research, we normally think that it is only academia. We can also think of having independent research centers where Some professors can go do research, industry people will be deputed there, government can give funding. How do you think, Kuldeep, how do we see that number of researchers, this number is increased in India in next 5 years? What could be the solution?
Um, Towards that point, I want to first bring issue of culture of how we look at research. Now, as I said, um, research is an investment into a better future, and the payback times can be extremely wrong. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. It's not possible to come up with a new great product in say a month or two. It needs time to incubate. It needs time to do experimentation. It needs time to do testing. So I would say first the culture has to be fixed. The expectations from research that if I give you a problem in a month, I want a solution. That depends on the size of the problem, and you have to allow research proper time. Number one. Number two, you have to look at it as a investment into your better future. Now, as I said, everything in the world, every technology in the world today has some research behind it. I mean, the telephone was invented by Mr. Bell in Bell Labs, and if he had not done the research, you would not have telephones today. So the way to look at research is with some importance, with some respect, and say that you are my future. I mean, you would probably give me a future product which is a blockbuster. So I think if we fix the culture towards the approach of an Indian university institution and government towards research, we would have a lot of people interested in research, and we would be growing this community. Right now, there is a problem because of the expectations. That is for sure. Industry expects a new molecule, new product in 1 year, 6 months. That doesn't happen, or a new process in 6 months. That doesn't happen. So I think it's about the culture that we have, which needs a little bit of change. And with that, I think we would be able to grow this research community much faster. That would be
Oh,
my take on that.
okay. Thank you, Kuldeep. I think one way to understand whether we have best R&D practices is to see whether the research has contributed to the economic development of that country. On that side, if I have to see, patents could be one parameter which we can closely monitor. A patent which is actually used by industry and commercialized or licensed. I was looking at the number of patents filed in India recently, and I was surprised to see that out of 48,000 patents filed in a particular year, only 32% were filed by Indians. That means even this knowledge is being used by someone else, and USA has 31% Indian patents. So where is the gap? I mean, why Indians are not generating knowledge which is patentable, which can be commercialized, having X patents, but which are not contributing towards the economy of Indian economy I'm talking about. Where is the gap, Dr. Mallika? Where could be the problem?
Yeah, actually, there is a gap. We have to change our education system throughout, because there is a lot of theoretical knowledge available, but we are not able to, turn, or we are not able to, implement this into a practical things and file patents. There are a lot of academicians who has, pool of knowledge, pool of talent is there. So, but there are things where where the academician is lacking. In my opinion, there is no practical things. We do not have state of art facilities at universities level. Then if I'll talk about my education, when I entered in industry, I saw a different world, and which is not there at academic level. So until unless this gap, and how we can fill that gap, like we have to inculcate this syllabus based knowledge from very primary education, so that students are interested in scientific things, students are interested in research. Now the people can opt for science, and they can imagine the expectation what industry want at their basic curriculum level. There should be some industrial training. We are doing industrial training once there is a course. When we are going to finish that course, there is a curriculum that yes, at the end of the course, student has to go for 1 or 2 months industrial training. So why not we are implementing these things at a very basic primary, secondary education level? Why our education system is basically talk about theory? Why our education system is not talking about practical things, which ultimately we have to enter in industry, and all expectation is, we have to produce a viable products in a shortest period of time. That is a parameter of success in industry. So overall, and I think government is doing now, there is a new education policy, which is a very good education policy. I had read that superficially, but I'm sure once these things will be implemented, there will be a major change. People will be attracted towards research. There will be more patents, because overall there's a change of mindset. How we have studied till 12th, till graduations, that will change. And definitely there will be more patents. People will think in that direction. There will be more practical and practical knowledge. And that is the only solution. Once your theoretical knowledge and your practical knowledge, because theoretically you have endless limit, you can think a lot, but whether these things are practically successful, whether we can file a patent, whether we have all the results in our hand, and whether we have products in hand. So once this education system, which I'm seeing a positive change in India as well, there will be definitely this problem will be assessed, and there will be more patents from India, the side itself.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. Everyone in India is now optimistic, and we are sure we'll get there. The present national education policy talks about it. There's a funding available, extra 1% funding available. I want to go to Professor Gupta. Professor Gupta, there are two mentions in the national education policy, Mission Nalanda and Mission Takshashila. So I was talking to AICT chairman yesterday, and he was mentioning that India was there in the knowledge generation thousands years back, maybe in the 12th or 13th century, until 1947, there was a huge loss in terms of education system, whatever we say. And last decade, once we became independent, we are trying to again go back to our old levels of knowledge. Definitely, it is going to take a lot of time, because 7 centuries loss cannot be recovered in 7 decades of time. But at least we are on the right track. And one parameter which indicates that is the publication rank of India has marginally improved. That's a positive sign. It's marginally improved. And India's output, impact, and knowledge transfer, that figure also has marginally improved. I say marginally improved. What will be your advice, Professor Gupta, to academicians to improve the quality of publications? Because you have been advising many universities in India on various aspects.
Right.
Where do you think, is it a mindset problem? It is acquiring PhD for the sake of promotion is the problem? Where is the problem, Professor Gupta?
Interesting question, Professor Khandekar, one more time. And I would start by saying that, again, the same thing. One is the organization cultural issue. The cultural aspect is the same. As I said that from the very beginning, our system in India, which fortunately is improving with the new education policy, or maybe the academicians are collaborating with the foreign academicians and so on and so forth. But initially, the mindset was to teach and to impart the knowledge that what you know. So the research orientation was very limited. Now why there is a change and why people are started to more getting into the research recently is because of 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons maybe. One is now institutions or the university has to go high up in the rank, and the basic and the important criteria is the research output, right? Then other thing that we look for is the international accreditations, for example, and the major criteria is the research output, and so on and so forth. There are so many things that we can talk about here. So, as I always say and advise to many of the universities is that for us as an academicians, the major point of what I say this return on investment is what is your output as a researcher. Not everybody in a university will be interested to do so. Because my orientation, for example, is just to share the knowledge in terms of advising and teaching students. That's fine enough, that's fair enough. But there are set of people who are interested only to make research, you know. So to answer particularly your question, I think it's the gap between what we were and where we want to go today. What was the culture we used to follow until so many years and where we are now, what we want to achieve in future. So that is why many institutions, universities, professors, researchers, whatever, they are struggling to publish in a ranked journals, and that is what the requirement is today. So my strong advice is to create a culture by inviting, providing all the resources, inviting the eminent researchers, or telling the professors or stakeholders to let them know how to publish, basically start from the beginning, so that everybody will feel at ease. There is no such pressure of anything. And also, I think we should try to create an incentive and reward system for that. It should not be for free. Like we have it in Western system, you know, if you publish something, you have certain rewards in return, and everywhere we talk about return on investment. So that is what I say, I see. And as far as Indian people, our mindset are concerned, and the professionals are concerned, I see huge potential in people to do such a thing. It's just that the proper guidelines needs to be given. That's it. So I see a great future from that perspective, in fact.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. Now it's almost, we are coming to the end of discussion. The theme of this INDCON, the basic objective of INDCON is to connect the three dots, academia, industry, and government. And we are planning to submit our discussions in the form of white paper to the government. These are our suggestions which are deliberated in our INDCON. For that, I would like to come to Kuldeep and ask, you know, one thing, like what one thing government should do, one thing academia should do, one thing industry should do, one thing as per, what is your take, suggestion that government should do this thing first baby step, or they are doing good? No, nothing. Government is doing great, but academia has to do this one thing and industry has to do one thing. So for one each step for government, in the academia and industry.
One thing that should be done from the government side is to identify strategically important areas for them which needs research and new solutions. That's number one that they should be doing, plus providing all the necessary facilities and resources to carry out the research. That is what government, I would suggest, be doing. The industry should respond to that need by the government, saying that this is the state of the art, and these are the gaps that we see in between, and then formulate that problem and give it to the research community for them to do research on. From the academic perspective, I think you need an education system which has depth of subject rather than breadth of subject. I mean, both of them are important. Breadth of subject and depth of subject are important. But for research, you need depth of subject. Somebody who can go deep into that subject so much and explain it in a way that is just easy for everybody to understand. That's what so these are the things that I would say as a 1 point for each of them. And of course, the research community has to then come together and solve that problem for industry or government. Be a fruitful research. Yeah, does that answer your query?
Yes, thank you, Kuldeep. Thank you for those suggestions. We'll definitely put it in our report. Dr. Mallika, your suggestions for all the three important stakeholders?
Yes, Dr. Khandekar. Actually, in my personal opinion, I must say that government should encourage all the researcher academicians by motivating, distributing some, appreciating their work, distributing awards, so that people should be attracted towards this research. Because nowadays, like you said, that number are decreasing day by day, and which is a really matter of concern. So government should have such a system where there is a motivation towards successful research which academicians are doing, and time to time, that should not be one time motivation, that is on regular basis. Also, they have to invest a lot of money which would be needed for developing a state of art facility, so that academician who has all the theoretical knowledge can convert their theoretical knowledge into practical knowledge to a successful product. Once there is a successful product with academicians, naturally industry will be attracted to it, because what industry needs? Industry is a profit making organization. If academicians have really a product in their hand, and which is a problem solving from industry point of view, so naturally industry will attract towards them. The thing is, all of three divisions has to work together, especially government, and then academician, and then industry will come automatically in place.
Thank you. I go to Professor Gupta for her remarks. What three people should be doing: industry, academia, and government?
Thanks, Professor Khandekar. As I mentioned for government already, that I prefer that they may have to think about to maybe doing the restructuring and de-bureaucratize the university and the publicly funded research and development institution, and give them some flexibility, freedom of operation, and financial autonomy. That is what my first take, and especially examine the relevance of quality of industrial R&D in public funded institutes. And they should also reflect over the relevance in the changing context for the same. And for those who are the modernized select university, research and development institution, in a way, they should be able to give them a fair playing ground. I think that is something is interesting and important for the government to think about in future. And from the industry perspective, I think there should be a big, thought process of how to export of knowledge should be done, basically. So make an international competitive bids for generation and export of technology by joining with public research institutes, which may strengthen the synergies which can be used from both the ends. So I think that is where the industry should be able to contribute. And from the academic side, I think as we all agree, that all of us, that there should be a recognition and reward system in place for the researcher, and all the funds and resources should be available for the stakeholders where they can contribute. We cannot just expect without giving them the resources. That is something what I say. So this is my take on the 3 points.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Gupta. With this, we have come to the end of our panel discussion. I have received 4 questions and 1 comment in the chat box. Questions which I have received are by and large we have covered with a different points. All of you have talked about it. So I'll not take the question, but I would like to read the comment by Vijay Nadkar. Just because he has not asked any question, he is suggesting that let us put things in perspective with facts. It is being said that in US, the private sector contributes more towards funding and encouraging R&D than the government there. Yes, I talked about it. It's 10% there. It is also a fact that in US, the education system is government run, unlike India. Not really. There are state universities, there are private also. In India, yes, we have majorly private universities. It's more privatized, taking the major chunk, etc. Thus, net one needs to take total view. The private sector will take the plunge only and only if there was an enabling environment. Thank you, Vijay, for your comment in the chat box. We acknowledge your input and we appreciate that. So with this, we have come to the conclusion of this fantastic discussion and deliberation on what could be the best R&D practice for India to go ahead. I am very positive about the way the things are seen at government level, at industry level, and at academia level. I think we are just gathering the momentum, and there will be that tipping point where India will be on the global front. And once it comes on the global front, I think we will be a developed country. Then, when the research innovation will come at the top. I'm a very positive person. I would like to thank Kuldeep Varma for sparing out valuable time, coming out of his busy schedule of international projects and sharing his thoughts with us. Thank you, Kuldeep, for making it and sharing your thoughts. I would also like to thank Dr. Mallika. Thank you, Dr. Mallika. It was a very insightful suggestions from your side. Thank you so much for sparing your time with us. Professor Gupta, I would say on the official platform that I'm a huge fan of your thought process and strategies. I always like to learn from you, Professor Gupta. Thank you so much for making
Thank
it.
you, Professor Khandekar. I want to just add one last comment on the whole thing, that for last 10 years, I've been saying this to everybody where I travel on the globe, and I will say it again, that India is the future.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, Professor Gupta, thank you so much. I know you are also too busy. You have so many assignments in your hand, international assignments. In spite of some technical glitches at the start, we could make it. It's really nice to have you.
It's unfortunate that I cannot show my face on the platform, but at least I can share my voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I must thank all the panel members. Professor Basu, am I supposed to propose vote of thanks or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. So, dear panel members, let me also thank IMC for this fantastic opportunity, because this is also going to be a kind of contribution towards Indian economy. Whatever we have discussed will be submitted to the right authorities, and they will listen to us. We are confident with the IMC-like platform. I would also like to thank MIT World Peace University, particularly the CAP team led by Mr. Praveen Patil, the entire team which is working day and night to bring industry academia together on various platforms. And INDCON is one such avenue for us to work on. I would also like to thank my technical team and marketing team for all this technical support they have provided. I would also like to thank all those who directly and indirectly contributed in making this session a very successful session. So with this, I would hand over to Professor Basu. You're on mute, Professor.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really a thought-provoking session. I would just like to request Patil sir, if you would like to say anything on a parting note. Praveen Patil sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm very much there. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so good. Finally, we come to the end of our 3-day session. It's been a lot of hard work that all the team members have put in. My compliments to their effort, and I want to tell all the panel members that, friends, thanks for participating on this esteemed panel. Dr. Khandekar has already mentioned that all the suggestions are being recorded. All the inputs that we are receiving are getting prepared in the form of white paper, and every city will become independent white paper, and like this 11 cities white paper will be combined and prepared as a master document, which will go as suggestion to the government, to the various chamber of commerce, and to various academic institutions, to make sure that So in my multiple interactions that I've had with whether industry, academia, or government, I think there is a very strong positive support which comes out from everybody. But I guess it was just about connecting those dots. And I think INDCON is that attempt to kind of get everybody together on the same platform, and in a formal fashion we get all the inputs, and then the framework that we create should be a long-lasting, kind of a solution which should be sustainable on its own. And that's the objective of INDCON. I think I would like to thank all of you for having spared your valuable time and given your insightful views, which will help us a long way in taking forward this objective. Thank you so much, everybody. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your active participation. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye.